the Communist League of China had defeated a small force that had moved to a small island called Taiwan.
Yeah.
Now, this debate today is the most controversial debate in the world right now. No, one of the world's most controversial debates. Now, the problems are now that the Taiwanese government want to be independent. They're spending a lot of budget on the military, they're spending a lot of budget on the campaign to gain independence from China and to gain support from the international organization. This is why today this updated Taiwanese should banner or move toward formal independence. By formal independence, we mean like the countries have its own country's name, its own nationality, and its embassy all around the world, not just like an island called Taiwan, but in the visa it's called the Republic of China. Now, my first argument is that it's go against people. If the government keep moving toward formal independence. Now, the proof is that the election in 2004 presidential has shown a preference for traditional will. That most people are voting for this. They have the desire to stop the move to get formal independence. They say that Taiwan will eventually unify with China, and people elected for the people believe that. And if the government goes against the desire of the majority people, it will greatly exaggerate and cause dangerous harm to the society as a whole. And yes.
So the people voted for the bombing, they want to go back to China.
No, eventually, most people, yes, they don't want to start a war, they don't want to provoke a war. And my second speaker will say clearly what will happen if the war happens. If China decides to launch the missile which fly along the China coast at Taiwan, the whole island will be gone in 40 minutes. Now, my second argument is about China influence. Now, China is one of the world's most strongest nations right now. They have one of the strongest armies. Imagine, if all of the people in China go to Singapore and spit on them, the whole island of Singapore will drown. We can see that China have a lot of people, they have a lot of influence. Taiwan might have a strong economy right now, but the question is whether they can maintain this economy in the face of attack from China. That's the question that the opposition needs to answer. Now, no one can help Taiwan. Taiwan is all alone. Even the US are afraid of China. It recognizes Taiwan as part of China, as in the UN, and it has no seat in the UN, Taiwan. And the amount of budget compared to China, even though if the Taiwanese government spends any amount of money, every amount of budget on the military defense, it can't even compare to China. China spends more than 12 billion each year, and my second speaker will talk about how China is affecting the whole world, how China are having the main power in the world right now. Yes, sir.
Are you telling me it's in the best interest of the Taiwanese people to be swallowed by the authoritarian regime that is in China?
It's for the greater good. It's for the world. We don't want to start any war. We can say the war needs to know good. And we don't want that. That's why we stop it. We try to maintain the strong economy that Taiwan have right now. We try to create peace and from the interruption of the international organization. All the opposition side want to do is let the freedom grow, let Taiwan be free. But what are the consequences? What are the disadvantages that we have? What are the problems that we have into the world? That's not going to affect Taiwan, it's going to affect the whole world. If China decides to start a war, like what happened to the British when they started a war on Falk Island to get it back. Now, sit down, sir. So China influence. They have strong economic link with Taiwan right now. Like they trade, Taiwan buy water from them, buy food from them, they import and export many stuff together. So if we break this bond, what will happen between them? What will Taiwan economy be like? It will be weak, it will crumble, and it can't even compare to the world market. And it will be
So if really China wanted to attack Taiwan, don't you think they would have done it already?
Yes, they would, but right now Taiwan is part of China right now. And if it keeps all the move toward independence, the Chinese have to do something. Because right now there's no strong move, no strong evidence of movement toward independence. Because right now the Taiwanese government is like sitting here and going on this island. Because we don't see any protest, we don't see any military attack from the Taiwanese government that they want to be free. So this is why this is like a normal situation right now. But we don't want that to happen. That's why we need to abandon everything to prove to China that we don't want any sign of war. We don't want any sign of independence. communist leaders in China. So what about millions of people that live in Taiwan? It will be gone in 40 minutes, sir. So what are you trying to do, like freedom and death? Freedom for 40 minutes and death after that? No, we don't want that. We just want to keep it this way. Call the island Taiwan and the Republic of China and have strong economy, and people still maintain their lives and have their job and can live in the house happily without having to get into war.
Prove concrete evidence to us that right now Taiwan has all the moves, has lots of moves towards more independence. There's no war happening.
I say that there are no moves right now, man. There are no moves going on right now. There are no strong moves going on right now. There are no clear evidence right now. That's why the China government didn't attack us. That's why the China government didn't come to Taiwan and fire that missile. So this is what the government are trying to do. We're trying to maintain the peace, maintain the economy, and save the future loss of lives during the war. Thank you very much.
All right, let's talk on NEAO resolution.
Yeah.
We believe that just because there is a need to preserve the life of the Taiwanese, that should be the only reason why they should abandon the independent moves, right? We believe in principle that is wrong because we're so afraid of China, we're so afraid of why they would attack us. That's why we should abandon our fight for independence, our fight for our own nation and our own country, right? So that was the fraud case by state government. We're going to talk to you about two things. Our stance is simple. We believe that the strive for independence is the only way forward for Taiwan, right? Because if they don't strive forward, they will only regress back. I'm going to talk to you about two things. Internally, how this is affect Taiwan in terms of politically as well as economically. And my second speaker is going to talk about how this is going to affect the world at large. How does the image of Taiwan project to the world, right? But first, let me deal with what came from state government, right? Because basically his whole problem was that war would happen. The main reason why we should abandon all efforts for world independence is so that we maintain a peace in the world. We maintain this harmony and no chaos, right? First, we believe it's against the very principle. We believe that Taiwanese people shouldn't just not fight for independence just purely because of fear, purely because we believe, oh, China has the biggest economy, China has the biggest military, then we shouldn't fight for our own nation, right? But second, most importantly, we believe that the war will never happen, right? This will happen on two levels. We believe that China has such a big economic interest between Taiwan. One of the biggest parts of economy from China is the trade between Taiwan. But secondly, right, because the whole world knows that China has always had this conflict with Taiwan. The whole world knows that China has 104 missiles aiming at Taiwan. But the problem is that the world and the international community will have a very big problem if China shoots any one of those missiles towards a country that moves towards formal independence. So we believe that this war, this harm that we present, will not occur, right? And then secondly, he thinks, oh, this China is the USA. China is such a big country, right? The international community is so afraid of it. Everyone wants Taiwan to abandon the former independence. We simply believe this is not true because even recently, Obama has agreed to sell weapons to Taiwan, right? Because US is the only country that is willing to sell weapons to Taiwan. So we believe that not every country is afraid of China, and we believe Taiwan still should maintain the efforts to move towards former independence.
By the exact reason why Obama sold fires to Taiwan, it led to the destruction of the relationship between US and China and Taiwan as well. And the economic harm that's done to Taiwan is tremendous. What do you think about that?
We believe that just because US sells the weapons towards Taiwan, China will automatically remove this, will damage the economic interest between China and Taiwan, right? Because they assume that just because Taiwan procures weapons, it will then lead to the destruction of China and Taiwan. We believe that's simply not true, right? But firstly, let me go on to my first point, right? How exactly does this affect the political arena of Taiwan? Because the present party in power is Kuomintang, which pushes for the reunification back into China, right? Because they believe if they move in back to China, right, they believe they have some sort of political power. They still have some sort of China, right? So the policies will then be pended towards China, right? And the difference that it is now, it is because Taiwan is a democracy. It listens to the people, it has elections. But once you integrate back into China, where the policy, where human rights is not a paramount importance, where China in its, the government has shown evidence where they suppress Jasmine Revolution, where they suppress any form of dissent among its people. We believe the Taiwanese people will suffer from this very same consequence, especially when they integrate back into China. The democracy and the freedom of rights that they enjoy now in Taiwan will not be able to be applied, especially when they integrate back to China.
What do you think about the example of Hong Kong? Even after the China take away their independence and former independence, they are still enjoying the democracy and the economic benefits that they used to enjoy. What do you think about that?
We believe that in order, we believe that Hong Kong people, right, and the Macau people, right, they may have lived under this pseudo-democracy, right, because they have been brainwashed because they have been reunified with China for too long, right? They will be pendant to the policies of China because they have functioned under China longer than they have functioned alone. We believe the situation is different from Hong Kong, for Hong Kong and Macau, and then Taiwan, because Taiwan in itself has functioned like this and has enjoyed its democracy for so long, separate from China. So we believe that this is the way that it should go, right? But more importantly, right, let's look at how economically it would affect the system of Taiwan, because Taiwan has now grown and boomed into one of the biggest computer producers in the country, in the nation, in the worldwide, right? It has increased its economic benefits for its people, separate from China, right? So what will happen when they integrate back into the region that is China? Because what happens is that even on the basis level, that the taxes will increase because now they've been integrated into a country as large as it was, right? Because previously the economy was only centered around its own people, where it's a relatively small nation. But what happens when they get integrated is that the taxes will increase because they now have to pay for a larger population, because now they are a part of a larger population. And then secondly, because the exports that they used to have were used to be controlled by China, because the start used to be controlled by them when they had autonomy. But we believe that if they stop striving for independence, they will then regress back to the policies of China, to be controlled by China. So what will happen is that the very exports, the very economic benefits that they now have autonomy over will then be absorbed by the Chinese government, because the Chinese government will then control their economic exports, will then control their economical benefits. So we believe that all these factors will no longer it will not affect such a large population because it is now absorbed into China. So what am I told you here, Madam Speaker, is that number one, the harm that it presented will not occur. Just because you are afraid that the war will happen, which we have proven it will not happen, it shouldn't be the reason why Taiwanese people shouldn't push for stronger independence. We believe that it is for the best interests of the people to continue pushing for Taiwan, because if they do not do so, they will then regress back to China and apply the policies of China economically and politically. So for the best interest for the people, for the best interest of the Taiwan people, we believe we should go with that opposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Chair, for a long time that Taiwan gained their help from China to develop the Taiwan. If now Taiwan become an independent state, how can they sure that they're going to survive in the real world, ladies and gentlemen? And how can they be sure that Taiwan can defend the world's biggest military force in the world, ladies and gentlemen? And no one would help Taiwan. The reason why no one would help Taiwan because China, if other country or other organization trying to help Taiwan, that is the sign to declare war with China too, ladies and gentlemen. me to move to my rebuttal. You say about the fear. What about the False Island incidents? The whole world didn't dare to help them, ladies and gentlemen, and many lives have been lost. No, thank you. My second rebuttal. Many countries that have the states like Taiwan are doing fine, such as Scotland, Hong Kong. They have their own government. So why Taiwan needs to be independent states, ladies and gentlemen? Not now, sir. Allow me to move to my argument. China has consistently maintained that if Taiwan declares independence, it will declare war too. Mr. President Lee has been stated that the states-to-states policy relation, and they gonna launch missile any seconds if Taiwan declare the independence to become independent states, ladies and gentlemen. No, ma'am. And okay, let's compare the military force of Taiwan and China. China have more than 200 million military force, ladies and gentlemen. And think about the Taiwan. If 2 million military force step on Taiwan, I'm sure that Taiwan will be underwater any second, ladies and gentlemen. No, sir. And how are you going to make sure that the budget, more than $12 million budget that China have been put on the military force or into the largest army in the world, ladies and gentlemen? How can Taiwan defend this? And the consequences, just like my first speaker has been said, the people. Consequences is been dropped to the people in Taiwan, ladies and gentlemen. Where are they going to migrate? Where are they going to go if China starts to declare war? Because, just like I've been said, if other countries trying to help Taiwan, that means they trying to declare war with China too, ladies and gentlemen. And I just wonder why, any organization, which country, even UN already failed to help. UN even failed to help the genocide in the past decades, ladies and gentlemen. Not now, ma'am, sir. And the next consequences, and the largest consequences, is about the economy. Education, health. If no economic, no education, no health, is no development. And how come they're going to be developed while in the war, ladies and gentlemen? And education leads to develop. Allow me to move to my second argument about U.S. does not have any official diplomatic relation with Taiwan. They only have relation with China, ladies and gentlemen. China have relation with Taiwan. China have relation with United States of America, but it's not that official. The only help from United States of America is to sell the weapons, ladies and gentlemen. No, sir. Even though the United States stopped to sell weapons to China, I'm sure that China have been stored all the weapons in their home, ladies and gentlemen. No, sir. Mr. Ambassador Lee Chongjin, ma'am. He's in U.S. while George W. Bush have said the policy that they would defend Taiwan. But let's think, ladies and gentlemen. That was like a past decades ago. That policy, it's been declared on 1996. And how are you going to make sure that U.S. are going to engage to help Taiwan, ladies and gentlemen? No, ma'am. And the recent it will make consequences to education, health, strength, and economic, as I've been said on my first argument. What have been said today? I've been said that China has consistently maintained that if Taiwan declares independence, it will the same as declare war. Or even though the other country help Taiwan is the same as that other country trying to declare war with China, to ladies and gentlemen. My second argument is about U.S. doesn't have any official diplomatic relation with Taiwan, and I'm sure that no country will help Taiwan, ladies and gentlemen, in any cost. And my third argument is instead of pouring all the funds and budgets to military movement for going to independence, why don't we put all this money to trying to develop about the education, health, and strength to the economy? Because in the future, I'm sure that China is going to be the most powerful country in the world, ladies and gentlemen. As a government, I'm proud to propose.
Madam Chair, there are two fundamental questions that have to be answered by the whole of South government for them to even stand a chance in today. First question they have to tell us, what is the great harm, and beyond just hypotheticals, Madam Chair, they have to prove it to us. What is the extensive harm that we should give up all our democratic and economic rights in Taiwan, Madam Chair? Second question they have to answer, which is I think the question that's going to be answered by the closing government, is that how this want for an autonomy like Hong Kong type of autonomy, how can they guarantee that we won't lose, Madam Chair, our democratic rights, and how we won't lose the economic benefits that we had? And I'm sure Taiwan's economic benefits far supersede those of Hong Kong, Madam Chair. They have to answer those questions. If they don't answer those questions, they don't stand a chance in this debate. Now to get through to what we stand for as opposition, we told you that the strive for formal independence is the only way for Taiwan, Madam Chair. If we aren't moving forward, we're moving backwards into the mainland, Madam Chair. Because this is what I want to tell you. I want to tell you about the external implications. How we will lose, Taiwan will lose the ability to determine its international political destiny. We will lose any sort of relevance in the political arena, in the international political arena. Second of all, I want to tell you how we will lose the full benefits of independent international expansion, Madam Chair. The benefits such as economic expansion and the benefits such as having a stake and having the ability to have the very friends which you guys say Taiwan doesn't have, Madam Chair. But before I get on to that, let's deal with what they gave us. Because honestly, from side government, they failed to prove to us the extensive harm. They've told us that China has nuclear, has weapons, missiles pointing at Taiwan. But we believe that this is saber rattling, Madam Chair. Why is it saber rattling? Because up to this extent, China hasn't done anything, hasn't used these weapons, hasn't overtly attacked Taiwan. And why haven't they overtly attacked Taiwan? Because they have extensive economic benefits in Taiwan, Madam Chair. Not only do they have extensive economic benefits, you know that this will cause an uproar, especially if they want to integrate the Taiwanese people into the mainland. If they attack the very people that are trying to integrate, these people will become a pariah in their own nation, and they'll cause the very dissent that China is so afraid of. Imagine 23 million people pissed off at you because you just killed their family and their relatives and their friends, and they spread this discontent to the rest of the mainland. And already the existing problems in the mainland will spread. This is the very reason why China doesn't want to attack Taiwan and integrate upset and angry people into the mainland. They have to tell us why China will overlook these. But second of all, they told us that the international community will not come to Taiwan. They simply believe that's not true. First of all, America is actively supplying defensive weapons to Taiwan. But I even feel further than that, the world has a moral duty to come to the defense of Taiwan. The same way they came to the defense of Poland when Germany attacked Poland, and even more recently when Russia attacked Georgia, because Russia wanted Georgia, wanted the state of Ossetia to reintegrate back into Russia because they felt that it was their state. We felt the international community came to the aid and they ostracized Russia. The same way they ostracized China. China looking to be a political superpower in the world. It wants the legitimacy from the rest of the world and won't take that step. It's different from the situation in Tibet that they tried to indicate, because the situation in Tibet was them suppressing a couple of months. Here they're trying to go to war with nation. Why are they trying to go to the war in the nation? Because they want to remove the democratic rights of that nation, and they want to take the economic benefits of that nation. And I believe that China is not willing to take that risk, is not willing to face the criticism from the international community. So we believe that's not going to happen. But the last rebuttal on the last point they made, that somehow if we should spend less on military spending and start using this money on education and healthcare. Taiwan has the best healthcare in the Northeastern Asia. And it's even better healthcare than China, even when they're spending on the military management. So we believe we're all right with this paradigm, because we believe if we integrate into the mainland, we'll even have worse education and worse health managers who are willing to take the risk to spend on the military manager and keep the situation as it is. Yeah.
How are you so sure that all the benefits that Taiwan enjoys now will be suddenly disappear once China taking over? Because in the bad example, Hong Kong and Macau,
Okay, so now, the situation clearly, he doesn't know the situation in Hong Kong. The situation in Hong Kong is that there are a couple of rich families in Hong Kong who own predominantly all the wealth of Hong Kong, and the people in Hong Kong do not enjoy any democratic rights. They don't have freedom of speech. They can't decide who's in power. The leader in Hong Kong is called the chief executive of Hong Kong. You don't have no say in your destiny as an individual, in your part in the society of Hong Kong. So we don't want that for the Taiwanese people. Now to move on to the exact point of the political destiny, because you have to realize it's a sort of physics push and pull. As soon as we stop striving for formal independence, we're going to be pulled back, not into autonomy where China's like, okay, enjoy your democracy while we have this dictatorship here. When you pull in a position where the KMT will no longer exist, will no longer have power, fall into the People's Party, and the People's Party will stifle our dissent, will stifle any sort of dissent towards you. Now what we want to share the movement. When I talk about international political destiny, the movement where Taiwan can play a major role in the international community, because we fundamentally believe that it's the aspiration of any nation to become a world player. That's why Taiwan wants to be part of the UN. It wants to have a say in the way our forward movement as a people wants to have a say in making the rules that govern us as a people in the international community. And we believe as soon as we stop the move for formal independence, we lose out in the UN, won't be able to be part of deciding policies that determine the rules of law for the rest of us, the rest of people as a humanity in the international community. We lose out on our voice in the international community, the same way Hong Kong doesn't have a voice in the international community, the same way Macau doesn't have a voice in the international community. And we want to have a voice in the international community because we feel what happens in the world affects us. But even more important to my second point, on the four benches of economic expansion, the reason why more people are shifting towards the Beijing instead of Taiwan is because of the economic connections, We believe as soon as we get integrated into China, we lose out. Taiwan is one of the biggest exporters, and we believe if we keep up the pace that we're going, we'll increase our export, and we'll increase our economic connections, and we'll increase our friends, and we'll have more people vying for us and voting for us to join these specific international institutions. So with all that, we believe that if we stop striving for formal independence, we'll move back into the machine that is the authoritarian regime in China.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Both sides in today's debate agree on two fundamental propositions. Because A, we want to have Taiwan as much autonomy as possible, and B, we propose that it should be good for the international society as a whole. The problem of the entire opposition case is that they jeopardize the Taiwan's autonomy they used to enjoy, and furthermore, they worsen the international relations that we see as detriment even when we implement this policy. So our stance as the government side is clear. Our aim is to gain as much in this autonomy as possible, and we think we'll follow them as we see from the model of Hong Kong, where they maintain and flourish the economic and the mainly independence and the formal independence movement that will crush the Taiwan's economy and social structure in the status quo. So moving on to my rebuttal first. So we have two rebuttals in this tournament. Like first, we have what we hear from the opposition is what is their deliberate effects of their policy. We say it will only instigate China to use stronger measures, and it is increasingly harmful because A, China grows as an economic power, and B, China grows as a superpower in the military sense. So what does it mean? Especially when China's principle toward one China policy is premised on the fact of their saving face, and their saving face as to fit their empirical ambitions. We think this will cut off the trade that will hold the Taiwanese economy, and it will increase the military conflict that is already happening, contrary to what opposition say, and it will likely to more happen in the military conflicts in the South China Sea that we are seeing in today's case. And second rebuttal is their sheer contradiction and confusion. We say it is perfectly distinct from the movement and the voicing for formal independence and the real and substantive autonomy that Taiwan enjoys. Because the formal independence and the movement for formal independence only lead to the lessening of Taiwan's voice in the international society, and thus the lessening of the aggregate amount of autonomy they enjoy. Because as you see, fundamentally, sovereignty is a premise of the fact that other countries are respecting and recognizing them as a country, and we think this policy will only harm in their international, their stance as an international member of the society. So what is our extension? And we have two extensions in today's series. First extension is that why they benefit to Taiwan. We're going to examine it into like economic level, the autonomy they enjoy in today's debate. And second point is about the benefit to international relations that our side of our policy will bring. So moving on to my first extension, is that benefit to Taiwan and Taiwan government and society. So we think, A, we are proposing as much autonomy as possible for Taiwanese government. And we say the nature of concession they will make when they abandon the former independence movement, which they already abandoned in the present government, is that one China policy aim is to save face, as I talked to you, is not to take over and take money from them, but to have them emerge them as one country and to be successful in their empirical ambitions that they pursue. And that it is clearly shown from the example of Hong Kong, where contrary to the people's prejudice and people's worry, Hong Kong has been perfectly autonomous in the sense of economic and legislative and the administrative sense that is under the ruling of Donald Chang, which has been independent and proven to be independent throughout the history. And we say in this policy as well, even if they abandon the former independence movement, we can move toward the autonomy and gaining a lot of autonomy as possible, and we think it's fine in this case, and workable solution in this case. So thank you. And B, the economic benefit that this plan policy will bring. As a government, I'll talk to you about the economic benefit it brings. We're going to look through the mechanism and structure of why we're doing the economic benefit to Taiwan. Because the world is increasingly relying on China, especially in the sense of trade and economic benefit they enjoy. And Taiwan, since they're geographically and cultural in China, has been the crucial market for Taiwanese production, not the vice versa, because China has mostly importing goods, and they're exporting not to Taiwan, and their biggest exporter is actually to U.S. and U.S. market, not to Taiwanese market. And Taiwanese market, their buying of shares is increasing low in this status quo. So more harm done to Taiwan. So because, as I said, geographical reason, cultural reason, and thirdly, and more importantly, the nature of Taiwanese economy. Because as you see, the huge reliance on Chinese economy is the selling and exporting of electronic goods such as those of HEC. And Chinese industry mostly lack those kind of products. So there is more incentive for China to buy Chinese goods. So when we implement the former independence movement, will only destroy this cooperation and relationship. And it has happened that under the regime of Chen Shui-bian, because under his regime, his populist approach to instigate the patriotism of the Taiwanese people to gain more popular support for his presidency has led to a decline in the trade relationship between China and Taiwan, and the unemployment rate went through the roof. And we think it will happen when we do that again. Yes.
Do you think the KMT, the TPP, or even the Chinese people will agree to this, knowing that they will lose their political and democratic rights when they join China?
We think they will agree. And we see in the sense also those superpowers are US and China, and US is currently our ally, the biggest ally and for Taiwan. And we think they are starting to overcome this former antagonism, and they're more increasingly willing to trade and talk between themselves. We think those kind of movements are increasingly to be encouraged, because when we say when we let Taiwan to move on toward informal independent movement, the evidence it is clear they will harm. Because even now, whenever U.S. sell the fighters and U.S. sell the weapons to Taiwan, there is a sudden pause of the relationship and negotiation between Taiwan. Because, as for example, China actually prolongated their stay and their schedule for meeting with Obama in the last case. And those kind of things will lead to the worsening of the relationship between those two countries. And the thing is, most recently, Obama case clearly shows us, especially important because those kind of military partnerships directly link to the concept of former independence, simply because those kind of weapons are targeted directly to China. So this kind of policy will bring the history of Cold War again, and we think it's especially harmful. So we strongly propose. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, today in the debate, we have been asking whether China will get Taiwan and whether this relationship between China and Taiwan will become worse. We will answer that question by describing the Chinese-Taiwanese relationship and how that has changed because of the formal move to independence. We think that is an essential cog in the wheel for Taiwanese political power. And we think that we cannot give up this kind of move, right? So, opening opposition has already clearly told you why independence is so important. We will tell you why this move to independence actually allows Taiwan to be in a strong position than it was before. So, we say that if Taiwan just turns over and just dies, right, and just gives in to China, we think that this will make China take Taiwan for granted. We think that will not be any more useful for Taiwan. We think that all the harms that they bring about will not stop. So, firstly, some rebuttal. To the upper house, right, they say that there are places which don't have a strong move to independence, right? They think that being just part of the country and not having a say is enough. They brought the example of Scotland, but Scotland is already contemplating breaking away from the UK because they are unable to do that kind, have freedom to decide for themselves. Even when you talk to Hong Kongers, right, that is the same problem, right? If you ask them, do they like China? Most of them will tell you no, right? They hate the fact that China is suppressing the democracy, that China is going back on its word, and China is not doing what it said it will do, right? And the problem with Hong Kong was that because the British gave them up so easily, there were no safeguards in place to ensure that the Hong Kongers would have been able to guarantee that kind of independence. Even if they want to fight back, it's too late because they don't have that ability. We think that Taiwan should not go down that route, right? More than that, we say that looking at the response of the people, we think that as emotionally, right, Taiwanese have been having de facto independence for such a long time. They've been separate from China, they've had a separate political system, they even speak differently from the Chinese and they use different words. We think that this basic understanding of them as Taiwanese people will not be so easily removed by simply giving in to China and saying we want to be part of China. We think that the people of Taiwan will not accept it and the democracy of Taiwan will not accept it. Furthermore, right, rebuttals to the lower house. They say that they would jeopardize the autonomy, right? Firstly, as I mentioned earlier, right, they say that they want to reduce the budget of the military. Madam Speaker, the fact is that Taiwan just carried out a military exercise outside, near the straits. I think that the fact that Taiwan is showing that it can fight back shows that it will not be given so easily, and China knows that. More than that, going on to the international aspect, right, the reason why China hasn't invaded China shows that there's a fundamental strategic difference between China and Taiwan. China is considered a competitor. Taiwan is an ally of the US, and we think that that will not change in the near future. More than that, we say that the economy is not the only consideration for the US. The US has been willing to deal with Chinese protests about the weapon selling for the longest number of years, right? And we say that even China is starting to recognize that it shouldn't take such an active stand, right? So even in the past this year's selling of the weapons, right? China did not even cancel meetings with the defense minister and with the defense people in US. We think that the relationship of China and Taiwan is fundamentally changing. Yes, so.
The very reason that just because they didn't cancel the defense minister doesn't mean that they didn't harm the relationship between the US and Taiwan, US and China.
Okay, yeah. So, but ultimately, right, the US and China will not simply give up that kind of relationship because of selling weapons to China. And we say that what China is afraid of is attacking Taiwan and invoking an irreversible response from the US. We think that is something that China cannot deal with. Okay, so now we talk about how Taiwan's striving for independence has helped it. We say that this has given Taiwan a very strong bargaining position because this will ensure a more equal and a better bargaining position at the negotiating table. We think that basically, right, what has happened, to sit down, is that the dynamics of the Taiwan-Chinese relationship has changed, right? In the past, China wanted to attack Taiwan, right, and invade it, right? But over so many years, because Taiwan has shown that it is much more independent, much stronger, and much more able to deal with that problem. We think that basically, right, Taiwan has shown that it will not give in without a fight. I think that that is important. And Taiwan has shown that it will be able to fight back with China. More than that, right, we say that by having the de facto independence, Taiwan has basically provided for itself a position in which it can ensure that it will be safe, right? We think that having this de facto independence has allowed Taiwan to flourish and to get economic benefits and to get even more power. We say that getting independence will not fundamentally change that, and we think that the side government has really misrepresented how Taiwan will actually do it. More than that, as I mentioned earlier, when we talk about the example of Taiwan, of Macau and Hong Kong, we say that the fundamental difference is that because they were given in so easily, there was no room for them to negotiate, no room for them to maneuver. I think that by moving to independence and by ensuring that they remain separate from China, I think that Taiwan has the international aura and the international ability to do that, because this fundamentally internationalizes the conflict. It brings in different kinds of actors from the US, from other Western countries who would not like to see Taiwan simply given up, right? More than, we also think that basically this will ensure that Taiwan will not be bullied by China, right? So the question that we've kept on asking you is that why hasn't China attacked Taiwan? We say that fundamentally the Chinese position is one of bullying, it's one of posturing and making aggressive movements to pretend that they are serious, right? But we think that fundamentally China will not moving to step in because of the great power relationship, because of the way that the relationship has developed, and because of the Taiwanese position. We cannot give this up and believe that we need to strongly oppose this motion. Thank you.
state, I would like to rebut some of the points brought up by the previous speakers. We on the opposition say that independence of a state is meaningful only when other countries or other states officially recognize the independence of the state. So we say that this policy will bring China to exert pressure on the international community to not recognize Taiwan, and we see this clearly in the status quo, as China has put pressure on other states to not recognize Taiwan, and that's why the United Nations currently does not recognize Taiwan as an independent state. So we say that this policy will not help Taiwan in gaining meaningful independence, but only superficial independence that does not hold any value or meaning in the international community. So now I would like to go into the main issues that I saw in today's debate. I saw mainly three issues. Firstly, about the nature of the independence movement. And secondly, the economic ramifications that this policy will have on Taiwan. And finally, the political and international relations effects of this policy, that this policy will bring. Okay, before I go on, yes.
Yeah, don't you think people would recognize Taiwan if it was Taiwan, not the ROC?
We say that, I've told you that independence is meaningful only when other countries recognize it, right? So we say that this policy will, since China has such an influence and power in the international community, we say that they have the power to influence other states. So we say that their independence will not hold any true value at the end of the day. So basically on the nature of independence movements, we heard from the opening opposition that abandoning all moves towards independence will somehow regress Taiwan back, and it will encourage Chinese government to oppress all Taiwanese people and absorb all benefits and all social structure that exists in Taiwan in the status quo. We say that this is flawed in that my partner clearly gave to you the example of Hong Kong, where it's in large part enjoying its autonomous power, in that it has economic, administrative, and legislative independence, right? So we say that contrary to what the opposition thinks, pushing for this independence movement will further galvanize Chinese government to take an even stronger stance in restricting the autonomy of Taiwan. We see that this has a reverse effect in not guaranteeing independence of Taiwan, or rather even suppressing the autonomy that they're enjoying right now. I'd like to talk about the economic ramifications. The opening opposition said this will increase taxes because Taiwan will be absorbed by China, which has a larger population. We see this is kind of flawed because just because there's a larger population doesn't mean that the taxes will all of a sudden go up, because we see there are more taxpayers anyways, so it will balance out anyway, so I don't get the point about increasing taxes. But furthermore, she talked about that exports will be controlled by the Chinese government. Madam Speaker, I have to emphasize this point again, that this argument is fundamentally based on a flawed assumption that China will control every autonomous power that Taiwan is enjoying right now. Say that clearly that will not be the case, as we say that China, even if Taiwan becomes recognized as a part of China, the Taiwan will still be able to enjoy some of its autonomy, as can be seen by examples like Hong Kong. And more importantly, my partner from the closing government explained to you that since Chinese economy is growing at an extraordinary rate, and since China is becoming an economic superpower in the international community, it is important for Taiwan to maintain trade relationships with Taiwan so that they can gain the economic benefits. So we say this is particularly important because Taiwan's economy relies heavily on electronic goods, and China and therefore they export a lot of these electronic goods to China. So we say that once Taiwan declares formal independence, this will fundamentally destroy its economic cooperation and we heard from the opening opposition that this will somehow lead to restriction of freedom and democracy that exists. This policy will fundamentally undermine all the democracy and freedom and rights of individuals. This is again based on the flawed assumption that that all democratic structure that exists in Taiwan will disappear once it becomes a part of China. We say that this is clearly not the case. And even more importantly, my partner explained to you that this will have a worsening, that this policy will have a worsening effect on the international relations. We say that Taiwan is a strategic partner with the US, right? So since the movement for formal independence makes Taiwan to be strongly sided with the United States, we say that this is directly against China's policy, and it will bring, and we say that this will intensify the conflict and the tension that exists between the US and China. So we say that this fundamentally undermines the peace and the negotiations that has been that the two superpowers have been approaching, and we say that that's problematic. That's something that we don't want to see happening with this policy. So whatever I talked to you for the past almost 6.5 minutes, I've shown to you that the entire case of the opposition is based on the flawed assumption that once Taiwan abandons all moves towards formal independence, Taiwan will all of a sudden lose all of its economic benefits, and Chinese government will absorb and take over everything, every social benefits structure of Taiwan. We say that this is flawed, and they fail to prove to us why that will happen. And we want the opposition, especially the closing opposition, prove to you that this will not happen, and as can be seen by the case of Hong Kong. And the Taiwan
There's a large, Taiwan, so secondly, we say that Taiwan has a legitimate elected government and they have a lot of campaigns going on. They have the political stability in the state right now. They have, people are willing to be more involved in the democratization in their own state. People are concerned about the public policies. People are willing to vote for their own president. So in this case, we say that Taiwan shows us it's a very dynamic society with political stabilities. And fourthly, we say that Taiwan has already some stable allies in international society, such as with the U.S. society. So it's possible that we further strengthen these relationships and further develop the relations with other countries in international society. So in this case, we say that Taiwan is perfectly capable of governing themselves. Okay, what's the point?
Is that the reason why Taiwan is not even recognized by the UN as